Okay, I think I'm good. What was the unusual whales? On happy Wednesday, ladies and gentlemen. How are we doing? Zerp says, what's the best time frame to look at open interest? It depends on the asset. CME, probably 4 hour. 3 drives on ETH. I don't know if I can. Let me see if I can pull up ETH. Oh, looks Gucci. Looking Gucci. What does ETH BTC looks like? Gonna make another giant ass bear flag on this thing. I mean a bull flag. Pixel. A lot of these are just pixeling. Pixel. Literally just a continuation off of yesterday. I feel like we talked about all of this, yeah? We talked about this, yes. We talked about the longers from yesterday, feeling that round trip. Haskir says, I was just talking on Discord before open that I was seeing a bear div. Nice. Yeah, I mean, you were here yesterday, right, Haskir? It looks like it's just a continuation off of yesterday, so nice. It's almost like it didn't do anything. Incognito says, just trying to juice. What's going on, Incognito? Anything you want to talk about? Aurum says, true LMAO, it literally did nothing. I think you were here yesterday, right, Aurum? So we talked about cleaning the bad high, swipping that. And yeah, it really hasn't done anything. This is exactly why you want to put your stop loss in profit. Can't lose. Vegan says, so when you guys say you put your stop losses in profit, what does that mean? So for example, were you here yesterday, Vegan Beef? Make sure you're caught up from yesterday. Obviously, this won't make sense. We have people that were longing VWAP. We have people that were longing point of control. We had people that were shorting the swing fail. And the point that I was making was you got to make sure you get caught up, Vegan Beef. Do you know that every single stream you can rewatch whenever you want? The full stream is available. Not only that, but MGK will create highlights for that day. Yeah, so there's really no excuse, Vegan Beef. You can always rewind and get caught up. You can always rewatch. And you can even watch the 10-minute, 15-minute highlights too. Yeah, so they're all there. There's never a time where you have to miss. All right, but yeah, basically the whole point is regardless of what people were doing, nobody lost money. There were people that longed yesterday and I said, watch, you're going to get round tripped. We talked about shorting the highs over here. So people in shorts, I think there's about 342 of you guys in shorts from here. And then there's like 218 of you guys. I think you're going to get round tripped or stopped out or whatever. But the whole point is understanding that the high probability outcome of any trade that we take is that we're going to get round tripped. So the whole idea is to not lose. I think most people, they take the fees into consideration and the slippage. So let's say, for example, you shorted here on the failed auction on smaller time frame, then your stop loss is like right here. So it depends on what your Fibonacci sort of values are. You're going to go like this. If you don't want to get stopped out, you're going to put your entry right behind 786. If you're trying to maximize profits, you're going to start shaving at the 382. If you want to re-enter, you're taking that golden pocket. Did that help, Vegan? Did that help, Vegan Beef? The whole point is you don't let a green trade turn red. I was wondering if people put their stop losses trailing close to drop. Yeah, I mean, I think everybody, there is no right or wrong. Everybody has like their own individual way of doing it, vegan. If you've nerded out on Fibonacci levels and you know what each level kind of signifies, I think as long as you know shit like that, you can kind of make your own decision, my guy. Yeah. But you're doing great. So basically, vegan, if you're in a short from the top, you cannot lose vegan beef. Does that make sense? I iterate this every single day. There's always another trade. So what you need to do is put your stop loss at break even or tiny profit. You cannot lose. And all you need to be thinking about is where you want to TP. Do you want to TP or do you want to hedge long? And if you do get stopped out on that short, how would you take another one? All right. Ephilion says never let red trade turn green. Gotcha. If you're in South Korea, that's correct. Incognito 604 19 Turbo says Kimba, if SPX goes to 59.55, do you want me to give you like levels to the upside, brother? Like all of my CME levels to the upside, dude, is basically around the 105 target, like 104.9, 105.5, 106.5, 106.3. All of the, did you get those levels, 19? Because you can see the bad highs in the single print, right? Do you need them? So yeah, if you want to talk about like higher time frame, well then the 1077, right? If you want to talk smaller and medium time frame, because you're going to start to get into a position or not a position, you're going to start to get into a situation where there could be a short where it does not SFP the 107, right? We've seen that many times. And then if you do get above 107, you're really going to start to have the conundrum where that is a ETH high. So do you want to still take a short if the ETH high gets swept with another ETH high? Those are like the higher time frame things that I've been thinking about as we, get into next week. So like the 107 level, dead ass easy, right? Everybody has the 107 bad high sweep, right? That's easy. So you've got levels in between 105 and 107, 19 Turbo, right? Because the 107 short is easy. So in between 107 and the like the high that we placed locally, you've got single prints and imbalances. So it's like 104.9, right? You guys can see the 104, what is it, like 870, I think is the exact number. 104, 835. So there's a couple of highs, there's a couple of local bad highs, sweep levels, and imbalances, And then to the downside, 19 Turbo, obviously, if it loses this sort of like 103 chunk, do you remember what I said would be my next level? It's basically 100K. I don't know if you were here for it last week, but we talked about higher time frame. So once like this 100K kind of gets breached, anything below here, the clock is ticking, because if you do revert back in, you got to revert back out. If this like local cluster above the value area high doesn't hold, then, I'm going to be starting to look for rotation to point of control. And so that ends up being a hidden bull div, and then that ends up being a regular bull div. I think what it is conceptually is I just want to see if something like this is going to happen. I just want to know if something like that is possible to happen. So it's not like an exact level. I'm sure the wicks are going to be pretty crazy. But that's what I'm trying to see if that's possible or not. I don't know if it will. But conceptually, that's what I'm trying to look for, to see if that can get flipped as support. But losing 100K, getting bearish order flow at 100K would be fucked. So something like that I stack, but we're so far away from there, and we just don't have enough data for that yet. All right, I stack. If I had to guess, I stack. I think we SFP at least that local high. This guy. And like I was saying earlier, I don't know this. Everybody's going to be looking for an SFP here. That's a given. So like we talked about at 96, there's a chance it's going to front run that, or it's going to just blast through, and then we're going to get the ETH high. But that's a little bit sus, and this just kind of makes it prime for sweep. So I'm ready if it does a swing fail before, and then saving that would actually be dope as fuck. Oh my god. If we could leave another one like this and leave all of this for later, that would make the 100K or the 98 long hella easy. Does that make sense, iStack? I can't predict the future, brother, but do you understand the concept of, hey, if we leave those highs fucked up like that, it gives us confluence, it gives us confidence to long 98? Does that make sense? Because it's unfinished high. As long as you can understand that, and you've also seen it yourself, so you know what I'm talking about, and you don't have to just trust a random dude on the internet, even better, right? So I'm ready for both. But if we zoom in on the higher time frame, do you guys see what we're doing? We nuked through golden pocket. We bounced from 886. We did pixel perfect golden pocket retest. It made another lower low, and so it's like bulls really need to kind of change structure and get above the golden pocket. If we make another lower low, then the structure is going to be confirmed. And it's basically just like a failed auction. So now that you have cleaned the bottom by like $2 or whatever, technically it is a sweep, and so you need to get back above the golden pocket. If you get back above the golden pocket, then what are we looking at next? The VWAP. And if the VWAP and the point of control get turned into support, that's going to mean that that bigger golden pocket is getting turned into support, which means that and that are all up for grabs. That's where we're at right now. Iphilion says, but we left funky lows at 74.4, or even remember the funky lows back at 49, which still gives me PTSD. Iphilion, you're absolutely correct. Yeah, but don't forget that the highs that we left at 107 or whatever is also fucked up too. Yeah, and that being said, Iphilion, like, is it an impossibility to go back to 74 or even lower? No. Like, I could still see a scenario, Iphilion, where S&P nukes one more time. I still would not. Yeah, I mean, there's still a chance that we could. There's still a chance, I think, that we could go down into the 45 hundos on S&P. So I can't stress this enough. I hope RNK is listening. I'm not saying that we're gonna go down to 45 hundo, but if we do, holy shit, I'm gonna go mega long. Yeah, and I would even be interested in like any sort of big retracement, I'm in on it. All right, let's see if it's gonna be a value area high thing. Dimitri says, what is the probability in your opinion on going down to clean lows on S&P? Well, it depends on what you're talking about. Like, are you talking about the probability of cleaning the low this year? Or are you talking about cleaning the low next year? So, because I'm bullish for this year, but I think starting around the end of this year, towards maybe the end of Q1 next year, shit's gonna hit the fan. So maybe it's next year. I don't know. Do we get rate cuts? Do we not? What do the tariff situations look like? The probability to clean it this year, I think it's maybe like 30%. And all I'm doing is I'm looking at what the major banks are expecting for the rate cuts to be, how many times it'll happen, and when. So do you think we're gonna get 3 rate cuts, 2 rate cuts? And then do you think it's more towards the end of the year, or do you think it could start as early as end of summer? And all of those personal opinions will probably impact what you think the rest of the year could look like. And then that's how I would maybe like work my way back to try to time when we could get a little bit of a fucked up pullback. So, how funny would it be is if we don't do any rate cuts, okay? The market pumps all year, and then towards the end of the year, we get rate cuts and the market tanks. Wait, I thought rate cuts were bullish. I longed the top. Fuck. It wouldn't be the first that has happened. Oh, I know. I got fucked up. I got fucked up last time. Yeah, so I'll tell you what, Incognito, they're not gonna get me again this time. They're not gonna get me again this time. So yeah, it's a goofy world that we live in out there, but things can be priced in. Sell the news, you know what I mean? But markets are pumping, no rate cut. As soon as rate cuts come in, this starts to nuke. Yeah, anything is possible. Lawless says major banks predicted end of the year. Yeah, how crazy would it be if it actually nukes when we get rate cuts at the end of the year? Yeah, we'll see. And then depending on when we get rate cuts and a little bit of quantitative easing, that's when, I'm going to be interested for altcoins, right? So we could get a situation, ladies and gentlemen, we're pumping, right? And then we get rate cuts. Traditional markets, they pull back a little bit. Bitcoin pulls back a little bit, not a whole bunch, but that's when altcoin season starts. Yeah, so just got to be prepared and ready for it all, ladies and gentlemen. You guys excited though? Got to be excited. How fucked up would that be? Not fucked up, but like, how goofy would that be? Man, it would make no sense and retail would just be fucked. The retail be talking about, and especially because if Bitcoin isn't performing that well, which is usually the marker of an altcoin season anyways, right? because people are looking at altcoins fucking pumping 20% in a day. They're looking at Bitcoin that pumped 1% in a day. They're thinking to themselves, yo, I need to move my money over to altcoins, right? That's what usually triggers all of the capital inflow. So can't dismiss that idea. Got to be ready for it. Incognito says, I remember the past few years when good news is bad news and bad news is good news. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. So, I mean, it's definitely hypothetically possible, right? We keep pumping. Bitcoin S&P keeps pumping towards the end of the year. So whether it's October, November, December, whenever it is, maybe even September, we actually do get rate cuts, right? S&P and Bitcoin, they don't really do much, right? They kind of crab around, but altcoins fucking pop. And, if S&P is crabbing and Bitcoin is crabbing and altcoins are fucking going nuts, ETH is nearing 10,000, Sol is nearing 500, isn't that everybody's going to be fucking talking about altcoin season? And as soon as that fucking kid that makes my mochaccino frappuccino, cappuccino at Starbucks down the street starts talking to me about ETH is going to go to 25,000, we're shorting that bitch. Jay, I'm already planned out for the end of this year and end of next year. You feel me? Right, Focacino? Auto Takuma says, would ETH get affected like altcoins in altcoin season? Yes, ETH should go to 10,000. Like, some people are looking at ETH and they're thinking to themselves, this is really bullish. For me, ETH hasn't done anything to make me feel like it's bullish. Isn't that crazy? Because if ETH was really bullish, it would be near 4,000. So it's all semantics. Yes, ETH is bullish. It's fucking pumping. But is it still underperforming? Yeah. Like ETH should be at 4K right now. Not whatever the fuck it's at right now. So yeah, ETH still has a lot of work to do. I don't think altcoin season has started yet. And in my opinion, even though Sol is doing pretty nice by itself, I think ETH really going is going to be the indicator for altcoin season. So NK says ETH maybe 6K. ETH is like 10K. Yeah, think about what ETH BTC should be at, and then just take that number and multiply it by what you think Bitcoin is going to be, and then that's the price of ETH. Julian says BTC is breaking all-time high after all-time high, while ETH breaks low after low. Yeah, it's not. What I would say is I'm not tripping one bit about not having a giant ETH long. Soon, we're gonna try to get in on that bitch, but not tripping right now. Alanesu says, can you share where do you look at OI on ETH? You can use any sort of platform. Addis, Exo, obviously. ETH also has a CME contract, and so you can go to the CME website and look at the ETH open interest like we do for Biddy. Sigur says, can we take a look at XRP ETH? I don't know if I've ever looked at that. I probably wouldn't compare XRP to ETH. But I do like what you're doing. Yeah, I would maybe like compare Sol to ETH or like another sub token, but I don't know. I think I've maybe done XRP BTC chart. I don't think I've ever done XRP ETH. Is there juice there, Sigur DNS? If there's juice there, let me know, my boy. Alpeasy says, I actually use the XRP ETH and XRP Soul charts all the time. Is it juice? Let's take a look. Well, the good news is they give you hella easy ranges to pick from. Yeah. Oh, that's fucked. It's way overextended, huh? What if we include the volume from this point? Oh, yeah. Holy shit. Wow. So no real volume up here, huh? Okay, so then I want to know the whole volume range of this. Let's do from top to bottom. Wow, holy shit. Well, I guess we know what that means. XRP against ETH is kind of bearish, huh? So that means, so basically what that means is XRP needs to break well, there's two ways you could look at this. One is it's going to be better to have an ETH long. But the only time that you may want to have an XRP long is if it starts to break okay. So let's mark this out. That should be the point where the halfway point should be where the XRP long would be better than the ETH long. Yeah, but just shorter time frame, or not shorter time frame, but that's got to be pretty concerning that all of your volume is down there. Cowboy Crypto says, we got PPI tomorrow. Yeah, somebody was asking stuff about PPI earlier in the morning. I think it's going to be Baby Vala. I can't remember. I think it was last year, but there was another day. There was a time when there was a gap. So usually CPI goes first, and then the next day it's PPI, right? Some months the PPI comes out first. And there's 2 months, I believe, where there's a gap. So CPI was yesterday, today gap, and then PPI tomorrow. So I can't remember if it was May of last year, but if you just Google CPI, PPI schedule, you're going to notice that there is a month that we've had this before where there was a gap. So if you want to maybe figure out what month that was and then try to look at the price action depending on if, you know, the PPI was exactly as forecasted or if it overshot or underperformed. Consumer sentiment comes out Friday too, I believe. Could be interesting. I'll be here early for that. Yeah, I'll be here early for that. I should be on Friday around 5:30. Yeah, like 5 o'clock in the morning, my time, US time. So I'll be here early for that. Shadow says, thanks again for the stream, brother. Hey, thank you for stopping by, Shadow. I wish we had a little bit more volatility. You know what I mean? I wish we had a little bit more bing bong ding dong, but today just happened to be a continuation off of yesterday. So, yeah. And then aside from that, like, we've got levels to kind of help us navigate. So do your best. Obviously, VWAP, Fibonacci levels, value area high, value area low, settlement, all that shit should be pretty valuable. And good luck tomorrow. Have a wonderful rest of your day. Longers, I'm rooting for you. Shorters, I'm rooting for you. Bulls, Bears, we're all Lions. I won't be on tomorrow, but I'll regroup with you guys early on Friday. So, all right. No, I can't do the traditional outro. I don't have it on the laptop, but shout outs to Danny, shout outs to Hey Blaze, shout outs to Calling Noob, Sibo Mati, and Mango. Welcome to the VIP. Let's get it.